What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is the StormCast. Today is Saturday, August 31st, and it's a nice 83 degrees outside. Still kind of warm outside, but we're transitioning into this fall weather, so it's starting to feel a little bit better in the mornings. Quiet on set. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. And shout out to all my Spotify listeners. I appreciate all you guys. Go ahead and drop a 5-star rating on Spotify if you're listening to the audio version. I hope everyone is having a great week as we enter the weekend. I just want to say it is football season. So there's a lot of good things going on with college football and NFL. I have a lot of fantasy football teams this year. A lot of paid leagues. So at the end of the year, I'm expecting to get a nice little payoff. I just got my own league. I'm a commissioner of my own league as well. So if you want to join that league, we got a couple more spots left. Let me know down in the comments. Today, I did get stem cells. I'm currently on a 48-hour fast. I just hit 48 hours at about 3 o'clock. And I'm going to go until tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a 72-hour fast. I'm feeling really great. And the reason I am fasting is because I got stem cells today. And I wanted to give my body the optimal environment for healing. Stem cells and fasting are both known for reducing inflammation in the body. And so that's what I've been trying to do. Just give my body the best environment for healing and recovery. So I've been working out a lot. Like I just got stem cells today, so I'm not supposed to be working out. They recommend that you don't work out right after. You kind of give your body a little chance to let the stem cells work with the inflammation pathways in your body. You don't want to create too much inflammation. But I've been working out a lot. I've been hitting the gym hard. I don't know if you can tell. I'm getting a little bit bigger. People have been telling me they've seen an improvement in my arm size. So I'm just trying to get bigger, get stronger, and heal. I've been working out, like I said. I've been punching. I just got a new punching bag, and I've been swimming a lot, taking supplements. I've been taking BCAAs, protein powders, what else? Creatine with my stem cells, and beta-glutamine, and a bunch of things that are all supposed to improve on help the creatine. So it's a nice little mixture that I got going up with my smoothies and my creatine. Eating a lot of protein lately. Just hammering down the eggs and the meat and the steak and the lamb. Trying to get that protein intake way up. So today I am supposed to have a special guest for you guys. He's supposed to be letting me know when he's gonna join the call. So I'm looking forward to that, bringing you guys a different type of podcast, one that's going to be full of information, but full of facts and cool and interesting topics. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the first topic, actually, before he gets here, which has to do with fasting. So let's read about it. These ones I thought were pretty cool and interesting. They have to do with stem cells and fasting. So let's get right into this first topic, ladies and gentlemen. Drop a W in the chat if you're watching the live replay right now. So this one right here, sharing screen. I'm gonna share this screen instead. We'll start off with. Wait, we're not doing this one, are we? Yeah, we'll do this one. It's a nice little lengthy article by MIT News, also known as Massachusetts Institute of Technology, UTAB. So sharing the screen here. This one is titled "Fasting Boosts Stem Cells Regenerative Capacity. A drug treatment that mimics fasting can also provide the same benefit study finds." So as people age, their intestinal stem cells begin to lose their ability to regenerate. These stem cells are the source for all new intestinal cells. So this decline can make it more difficult to recover from gastrointestinal infections or other conditions that affect the intestine. This age-related loss of stem cell function can be reversed by a 24-hour fast, according to a new study of MIT biologists. The researchers found that fasting dramatically improves stem cells' ability to regenerate in both aged and young mice. So if you've lost your stem cells and you have some type of disease in the intestinal region, gastrointestinal infection, then they're saying here that a 24-hour fast can reverse this. So simply denying yourself of food for 24 hours, according to MIT biologists, will dramatically improve stem cell ability to regenerate, which the stem cells is what you're going to use to repair, right? So that's a huge finding. In fasting mice, cells begin breaking down fatty acids instead of glucose, a change that stimulates the stem cells to become more regenerative. The researchers found that you could also regenerate with a molecule that activates the same metabolic switch. Such an intervention could potentially help older people recovering from GI infections or cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy, the researchers say. Fasting has many effects in the intestine, which include boosting regeneration as well as potential uses in any type of ailment that impinges on the intestine, such as infections or cancers, says Omar Yilmaz, a MIT assistant professor of biology, a member of Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research, and one of the senior authors of this study. Understanding how fasting improves overall health, including the role of adult stem cells in intestinal regeneration and repair and in aging, is a fundamental interest of my laboratory. David Sabatini, a MIT professor of biology and member of the Whitehead Institute for Biomedical Research at the Koch Institute, is also a senior author of the paper, which appears in the May 3rd issue of Cell Stem Cell. This study provided evidence that fasting induces a metabolic switch in the intestinal stem cells, from utilizing carbohydrates to burning fat, Sabatini says. Interestingly, switching these cells to fatty acid oxidation enhanced their function significantly. Pharmacological targeting of this pathway may provide a therapeutic opportunity to improve tissue homeostasis in age-associated pathologies. The paper's lead author are Whitehead Institute postdoc Maria Mihailova and Koch Institute postdoc Chiahui Chang. So this has to do with boosting regeneration. For many decades, scientists have known that low caloric intake is linked to enhanced longevity in humans and other organisms. Yilmaz and his colleagues were interested in exploring how fasting exerts its effects at the molecular level, specifically in the intestine. Intestinal stem cells are responsible for maintaining the lining of the intestine, which typically renews itself every 5 days. When an injury or infection occurs, stem cells are key to repairing any damage. As people age, the regenerative abilities to these intestinal stem cells decline, so it takes longer for the intestine to recover. Intestinal stem cells are the workhorses of the intestine that give rise to more stem cells and to all the various differentiated cell types of the intestine. Notably, during aging, intestinal stem cell function declines, which impairs the ability of the intestine to repair itself after damage. Yilmaz says, in this line of investigation, we focused on understanding how a 24-hour fast enhances the function of young and old intestinal stem cells. After mice fasted for 24 hours, the researchers removed intestinal stem cells and grew them in a culture dish, allowing them to determine whether the cells can give rise to many intestines known as organoids. Organoids. New word for us. The researchers found that stem cells from the fasting mice doubled their regenerative capacity. So this is just after 24-hour, be it mice. It has implications for what it could do to humans on a bigger level, on a grander scale. So it was very obvious that fasting had this really immense effect on the ability of intestinal crypts to form more organoids, which is stem cell driven. Mahaloiva says this was something that we saw in both the young mice and the aged mice, and we really wanted to understand the molecular mechanisms driving this. So there's a metabolic switch happening here. Further studies include sequencing the messenger RNA of stem cells from the mice that fasted, and revealed that fasting induces cells to switch from their usual metabolism, which burns carbohydrates such as sugars, to metabolizing fatty acids. This switch occurs through the activation of transcription factors called PPARs, which turn on many genes that are involved in metabolizing fatty acids. So during this fasting process, we go from metabolizing carbs to metabolizing fatty acids, which would create stem cells differently once you're in a fasted state. So the researchers found that if they turn off this pathway, fasting could no longer boost regeneration. They now plan to study how this metabolic switch provokes stem cells to enhance their regenerative abilities. They also found that they could reproduce the beneficial effects of fasting by treating mice with a molecule that mimics the effects of PPARs. That was also very interesting, Chang says. Just activating one metabolic pathway is sufficient to reverse certain age phenotypes. So this paper shows us that fasting causes a metabolic change in the stem cells that reside in this organ, and thereby changes their behavior to promote more cell division. In a beautiful set of experiments, the authors subvert the system by causing those metabolic changes without fasting and see similar effects, says Rutter, who was not involved in this research. This work fits into a rapidly growing field that is demonstrating that nutrition and metabolism has profound effects on the behavior of cells, and that this predispose for human disease. So the findings here suggest that drug treatment could stimulate regeneration without requiring patients to fast, which is difficult for most people. It's a very difficult process. Maybe one of the hardest processes that someone can do is refrain from eating something that you're, so used to doing, something that you need for survival. It takes, I would say, a lot of discipline and a lot of head strength, mental strength, and it's a process. It's a spiritual process. I would say it's a physical process, and so for one group that could benefit from such treatment is cancer patients who are receiving chemotherapy, which often harms intestinal cells. It could also benefit older people who experience intestinal infections or other gastrointestinal disorders that can change the lining of the intestine. The researchers plan to explore the potential effectiveness of such treatments, and they also hope to study whether fasting affects regenerative abilities in stem cells and other types of tissue, which we're going to talk about here, how fasting affects the regenerative ability of your stem cells. But pretty much, guys, this paper is telling us that we can help, people with diseases, people with infections, by mimicking fasting, and we can do this by creating a drug that could do that could mimic fasting. So very interesting article there. We're going to go on to the next little topic here. Next little article that I saw relating to this, and I also found very interesting, called "A Fasting Refeeding Paradigm Rejuvenates." Share the screen here. So this is by Columbia University, titled "A Fasting Refeeding Paradigm Rejuvenates Old Stem Cells." So feeding after fasting could provide an answer to combating the effects of old age on the blood stem cells that often lead to life-threatening blood cancer, greater susceptibility to infections, and can even contribute to degenerative disorders in the elderly, according to a study in mice led by researchers in the Columbia Stem Cell Initiative. As with all stem cells, the body's blood-forming stem cells become less effective with age or fail to work at all. Blood-forming stem cells not only create red blood cells, but also all the cells of our immune system. And their decline leads to a whole host of problems for the aging body. So, guys, the blood-forming stem cells in our body that create red blood cells is very important and vital to our life and our longevity and how we age in our cells. The new study indicates that there is a way to turn back the clock to a younger time and rejuvenate these blood stem cells, restoring their ability to regenerate and fight off age-related diseases. This study, led by Emmanuel Passagiu, director of the Columbia Stem Cell Initiative, hope I said your name right, Emmanuel. The researchers found that a cellular recycling process known as autophagy must be activated in old blood stem cells for the cells to survive and function in aged animals. And we know that autophagy is when your cells pretty much die off and are repaired, renewed, and reborn. So this is a vital process when it comes to our blood stem cells and our cells in general and their age and how we age. They identify chronic inflammation in the bone marrow microenvironment as the stressor that drives both metabolic impairment and compensatory autophagy activation in old blood stem cells. They further demonstrate that autophagy is an essential survival response in the context of inflammatory signaling and map out the molecular circuitry involved in the autophagy activation process. And though autophagy, although autophagy helps out old blood stem cells survive in stress of aging, these old stem cells do not have the same capacity as younger stem cells to create the blood's full repertoire of cells. That youthful capacity can be nearly restored, the researchers discovered, with a 24-hour fasting period followed by refeeding. So this is important. We talked about how the 24-hour fasting period is beneficial in the last article, but now we're seeing how the refeeding process after the 24-hour fast, why that step is so critical when forming stem cells. So the findings are important, says Passagiu, whose 2017 Nature paper was the first to identify autophagy in aging blood stem cells, because they help scientists better understand what causes stem cell aging, and they identify a way to reawaken the blood-forming function of aged stem cells, which could prevent harmful age-related conditions in the elderly. So now let's talk about rejuvenation, or how it requires resumption of eating. So although previous studies had found that fasting alone can induce autophagy, the new research shows that the resumption of feeding is necessary to fully rejuvenate blood stem cell function. These rejuvenated old stem cells were reset in their metabolism and were almost as proficient as young stem cells at regenerating the blood system upon transplantation and creating new red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, which are crucial for preventing anemia and infections. So even though the same fasting and refeeding process would be impractical to use directly on people because the equivalent fasting period would be much too long, these findings in mice would help us identify the pathways that mimic, how they mimic the effect of fasting and refeeding to rejuvenate old blood stem cells. The findings of the new study also provide more evidence to support the idea that fasting can improve cancer therapy by helping blood stem cells enhance a weakened immune system. So when understanding the biological causes of aging stem cells, this will, if we understand this, this will help us provide a better understanding of tissue repair, regeneration, stem cell therapy, and metabolic dysfunctions and diseases like coronary artery disease, diabetes, and stroke. So we got Seth here waiting on us in the lobby. We're about to have him join us for a nice little interview and questionnaire all about stem cells and how they can benefit all of us. So let's get right into this segment of the video, of the podcast. Welcome, Seth. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right. How's your day going so far?
It's good. Beautiful day here in Minnesota. Long weekend.
Yeah, it's a
Just got
beautiful
in the
day over
house.
here in South Carolina.
Good.
What was that? You got a house?
So just got back in the house. Got to listen to what you're talking about. Good stuff.
Yeah, what you been doing today? How's everything going?
I took my kids to the fair. Did a little bit of furniture shopping, and taking a little break to jump on this podcast with you.
Cool. We're gonna make it a nice little short,
Okay.
informational pod for the people. I think this information will benefit a lot of people. I found you on the Andy Elliott podcast, and I reached out to you from there, and you got me connected with some nurse practitioners in my area here in South Carolina. And I just want to thank you for doing that. I just got more stem cells today. I'm feeling absolutely great. I feel amazing. I'm feeling light. I actually got them injected this time at the neck and at the back. So this is, and I also got an IV. So
great.
I feel amazing. What got you interested in stem cells and regenerative medicine? Was there a particular moment or experience that inspired you to start your company?
I wish I had like a really cool story about how I got started, but I've been a business entrepreneur for a long time. And I went to a marketing conference like 8.5 years ago. And I wasn't really looking to hear about stem cells. I didn't really know what they were, but a medical guy turned entrepreneur gave like a long talk about the next big thing in medicine and how it's changing lives. And I started looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is where all the athletes go. This is where the celebrities are going overseas to do the stuff. And he was showing us how to turn stem cells, this industry, into a business. So just the business side of me is what got me interested 8.5 years ago. And then I haven't looked back since. Now it's I eat, breathe, sleep, everything in the regenerative medicine space. So very happy to be in it, but I kind of got into it through a friend, like a business partner. And I were just there to check out a marketing conference, and we were both like, we want to get into this industry. This is really cool. Now, I have always been into health and fitness, love sports, play sports, follow sports. So it is a natural thing for me to be in. So it's certainly, maybe it's divine providence or karma or luck or whatever you want to believe in, but it's certainly something that I'm very glad I discovered.
I'm sure you've seen the regenerative medicine field change a lot since you started.
Big time.
What were you doing before you got into this stem cell field?
Oh, I've done everything. I was doing financial services. Actually, I was selling life insurance, annuities. I've done some home improvement. I've done some solar, pretty much everything in the anything you can sell or market. I've done it. And, I'm 41. So I started in the business sales world when I was in my early 20s. So I've been around a little while, but like I said, it's been about 8 years now solid of regenerative medicine.
Do you have any personal experiences with stem cell yourself?
Oh yeah. So I got my first treatment done during COVID about 4 years ago, because stem cells are really good for boosting the immune system. So when everybody was, worried about COVID, I got IVs done. And after I got COVID, I got an IV done because I had a little bit of lung damage from COVID. My lung capacity when I was running and playing basketball.
I think he's breaking up a little bit on us here, guys. Might be a little bit of a connection issue. He's talking about his experience with stem cells and how he benefited from them after sports. So you might have to back out. Okay, he's back with us. There you go.
Did you lose me for a minute? No, since then I've done my knees, my right shoulder, and my right elbow.
Okay, nice.
And I do an IV, and I do an IV myself about every 6 months.
Every 6 months? Okay.
Yeah.
So would you recommend that time frame for someone dealing with issues? Maybe every 6 months, maybe every month?
Well, every month is pretty aggressive. I mean, some people do. Andy Elliott does it every month. But he's got all the money in the world and optimizing. I don't know that that's necessary. It really just depends on the person. If you have any autoimmune conditions, if you have a lot of inflammatory conditions, even something like Crohn's or irritable bowel syndrome, any organ issues, then it's definitely a good idea to get as often as you can. If you have a depleted immune system, this can help doing at least every 6 months or a year. But again, it does depend on if you're young. I mean, you're young, real young. I'm not, if it weren't for your accident, you probably wouldn't need to do it all that often, right? So there isn't necessarily a set time where everybody at this age needs to do this, because it really depends on the health. But keep in mind, there's zero harm in putting 80, 100 million cells into your bloodstream, because one thing we do know is the more healthy stem cells we have in our body, the healthier we should be. So your organs, inflammation, immune system, everything's gonna be better off.
Okay, so it can only benefit us.
It can't hurt you. Yeah.
So what's like the most exciting potential application of stem cells that
potentially? Oh, that's a great question, Mark. Great question. There's so much going on, like potential, as far as I would say Alzheimer's and dementia is pretty cool, because the brain is a large organ, and it's really hard to treat now to get in the brain. Like with what I do in the US, we can't go anywhere near the brain, but overseas, and there's been some clinical trials, the future for brain health is really big. But also there's nerve regeneration. It's already capable of regenerating some types of nerves for neuropathy. But even people in your condition, there's an article I found a couple of years ago that says first paralyzed man treated with stem cells has regained upper body movement. That's not necessarily, I'm not saying it's very common, but the potential is there. Parkinson's. Yeah.
Any movement at this, with the spinal cord injury level, any movement gained back is a huge step forward. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Getting that independence back is huge for anyone in my situation. So in the next 10 years, how do you see stem cells evolving?
Yeah, great question. I think I've seen in the last couple of years it become more mainstream. There was a few years, maybe in the 2020 to 2022, it looked like the FDA was going to give a real hard time to the industry. So a lot of people were kind of scared, and the FDA kind of said, there's not much we can do with it. It's not a drug, so make sure doctors are doing it properly. So I'm seeing it even in the last year become more and more talked about. So some of my clients are orthopedic doctors of Major League Baseball teams, football teams, NBA teams, high college, high level football teams. So it's becoming way more common for things like soft tissue, knees, hips, muscles, tendons, injuries. So we're already doing that, but I just think it's not going to be headline news every time, like Tyreek Hill, for example, the football player, he got stem cells over the summer, and it was on, CBS Sports or Yahoo Sports or, whatever, Bleacher Report, because it's still like a story. But what I know just from being behind the scenes is these guys are doing it all the time, whether they tell the media about it or not. It's something that's being done because there is no harm. It's natural, unlike some of the other stuff that you can do could have negative side effects. So I think it's just going to become more and more mainstream. Then the ultimate goal would be that Medicare and insurance pays for it. That's what I would love to see in the next 10 years. Actually, I hope it happens before then. That would be the biggest boon, not just for that would obviously be huge for the general public. It would be huge, instead of getting these.
I feel like maybe 3 years ago, sorry, cutting you off there, but I feel like maybe 3 years ago, there was a lot of skepticism revolved around stem cells. And just as of recently, a lot of people are starting to pick it up, like you said. And even if it's underground, a lot of people are still doing it. So I feel like that stigma around and the misconceptions about stem cells are slowly dying away.
That's a great point.
So how do stem cells fit into wellness and recovery as a whole?
Yeah, well, one thing we know, overall wellness, anti-aging, I think I heard you talking about that. Stem cells can reprogram your body's old stem cells to act younger. So there's a lot of people that use it, like I said, these IVs once a year or so. They just do it because it can help reprogram old cells to act younger. Your organs can potentially, you can almost turn back the clock, especially if you're aging, into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, especially. Kind of turn back the clock. It can regenerate healthy new tissue. But post-injury, one thing we know for sure is when these athletes are getting like a major injury. For example, I'm here in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, if you remember, the quarterback, he got traded to the Falcons now, but he tore his Achilles last year in the middle of the season. it snapped, it rolled up his leg. We're not saying stem cell injection was going to heal the Achilles, but it made local news around here that after he got his Achilles surgically repaired, he went and got the same stem cells we put in your back, that type of stem. So he got that put in his Achilles, because what it's going to do is it's going to spur new healthy blood vessels, which will spur blood flow, which means injured areas are going to heal way quicker. And they've really been doing this behind the scenes for 5 to 10 years. A lot of these guys with torn ACLs and Achilles, these athletes that used to take like a year and a half to really get back to where they were. If you notice, some of these guys, they're back 9 months later better than ever. And a big part of that is using things like stem cells to speed the healing process.
Okay, so we see a lot of athletes doing it, but say someone watching this is the normal person.
Yep.
They may have a little bit of back pain, maybe a little bit of ankle pain. How would you pretty much prepare that person for a stem cell procedure?
Yeah. So what we would ask is, is it just a little bit of back pain, or is it something that's been diagnosed? Now, of course, this is an elective procedure. You're free to do it if you want to, but as far as more, if you're asking yourself, is it more necessary, right? Because it's going to cost a little bit of money. What you want to ask yourself is your injury or is your pain due to some sort of degenerative tissue? So is it a tendon, a ligament? Is it cartilage? Is it a bulging disc, a degenerative disc? Those are the real sweet spots when it comes to pain management. So if your back is messed up, is it messed up because you got a bulging disc? If so, great. We can put the stem cells right in that disc, and it should replenish the disc and take the bulge away. Same thing with tears of tendons, ligaments, cartilage missing or being torn. So that's the real sweet spot when it comes to, or scar tissue. So if somebody's had surgery prior and that area that they had surgery on is still bothersome, you probably have arthritis and scar tissue, and stem cells can actually reverse osteoarthritis and, of course, heal scar tissue. So long story short, find out what it is that's causing you the shoulder pain, back pain. And if it's something that has soft tissue defect, then this is the sweet spot.
Okay. Soft tissue defects.
Yep.
What are your long-term goals? Because how long have you been working with Regenerative Revival?
Well, Regenerative Revival is just one of my companies I own in this space. I'm a partner in that. That's been around about 5 years. I have several other companies. I'm in the distribution side. I'm in the consulting side. I have a couple sales companies that directly market to people. My long-term goals is honestly just to make more inroads in this space, which I've really done. Not to pat myself on the back, but I've done a good job of getting in, making inroads to a lot of the big players. So now I have relationships directly with laboratories, with hospitals that collect the umbilical cords. So I want to continue to make inroads so that I'm ready when the next breakthrough happens. So, for example, if and when somebody comes out with a stem cell product that insurance is going to take, or Medicare, I want to make sure that I'm there and ready for it, and I have the infrastructure set up in one of my companies to be able to, help the masses. Obviously, I want to help people. That's a big part of it. But as far as business goes, it's always good to be one of the first ones in. So that's my goal, is to continue staying on the forefront of this industry, make more connections, and see where it goes. Just make sure I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, I've been working with, we've been talking, and I've been working with my insurance on trying to get this approved. I know they do cover it for some cancer.
Yep.
Some people with cancers and stuff like that. But getting a spinal cord injury, stem cell is, it's difficult, but we're working on it. So
that's more likely than like a bad knee or a shoulder. So I mean, you might have some luck. You have a better chance than somebody that just says my knee and my back hurts, because they'll say that's not life threatening or whatever. But yeah,
absolutely. Because I face things like spasms, bowel and bladder irregularity.
Yep.
So stem cells are all helping regenerate and helping me gain feeling in those areas of my body. And so I'm really excited about, the future of stem cells. And, hopefully one day this can be available to everyone and insurance can approve it for everyone. So is there any experiments or projects that are out there right now that you're aware of that are making, strides with stem cells and recovery for people, or is it kind of
Yeah.
just
So there's definitely stuff out there. So my only limitation in this industry, and it is a limitation, is I'm not a medical professional. So I'm just a business guy that got into this and I love it. I'm an industry expert, but there are medical trials and things like that that are going on. I'm just not all that. I don't see that stuff until it's done because they don't really share that stuff with some, random business guy. So there's stuff going on all the time behind the scenes. There's people like me or like-minded that are trying to push this forward. They want insurance, they want Medicare to cover this. So just know that there's stuff trying to happen. I'm not the only person in this industry pushing forward. There's many people like me, and some of them have, letters behind their name, PhD, MD, that. I just don't have any of that.
Okay. What's one health or wellness practice you think would be kind of niche that you swear by that most people might not know about?
Ooh. Well, I lift weights. I think lifting weights heavy is very important. I've been doing that since my mid-20s and I've never stopped. So putting on muscle is good. Obviously, everybody knows the cliche things. Try to eat as relatively clean. I'm a big fan of, one thing I do, I'm a big fan of NAD plus. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a cellular regenerative. Yeah.
And I'm not even good at explaining it just because I've read all about it, but it's, you comprehend it, but it's such big words. It's hard for me to convey. But if anybody's listening here that wants to learn about NAD plus, it is definitely the next thing in biohacking. And I've been doing injections of it now for about 4 or 5 months. And it's really good for a lot of things at the cellular level. But one thing I've noticed, and the reason I do it, at 41, I told you I have 4 or 5 businesses going on. It really gives me focus and clarity. So that is something that you get pretty immediate. So NAD plus, injections or IV, there's a lot of debate in the industry about the best way to actually get it into you. And the best way is with an IV, but it's so powerful that you almost have to do a 4-hour drip, because if you push NAD plus intravenously too fast, you'll get sick. It's like that powerful. So the second best way, which I found to be really good, is injecting it. So just getting a little insulin needle every couple days and just drawing out a little bit of NAD plus in a peptide form that you mix with static water or saline. And I do that about every 3 days. And I found that to be, I can actually definitely feel the difference when I do NAD.
I've heard Rhonda Patrick talk about it with certain doctors, a certain podcast on Joe Rogan. He has doctors on who talks about the NAD plus. And I actually got the pill form of it, and I took that for a little bit. I didn't feel much effect, but maybe it's because I didn't take the whole bottle or something like that. But
my opinion, Mark, in my experience, I did the pills for about 8-9 months and I didn't really feel anything. And I was trying to do it because that's the easiest way to do it. And I was hoping that the pills would work. But if you really read about it, there's a lot of stuff out there that says the pills really aren't going to do it. You either have to do the IV or you have to do it, direct injection. And it's not cheap, but I just bit the bullet and said, having my mental, being sharp and focused, trying to run all these businesses, it's definitely worth it for me.
So nothing can really beat the IV injection form of most medicines.
There's 2 things. The IV is where they drip it, and they would do that about once a week, but it takes about 4 hours. I don't have 4 hours to sit and do an IV. What I have found is that doing it an injection, like you buy a peptide, you mix it, and it's liquid. You draw it up with the insulin syringe, and you just do a subcutaneous injection, which is just a little bit of body fat by your stomach. It's nothing to it. You just draw out about 3/10 of a cc to 5/10 of a cc, and just shoot yourself every couple of days. That is just as good as an IV, and it's way easier than sitting and trying to schedule a 4-hour IV.
Absolutely, that would take a lot of time per day.
That's what I would suggest, is doing it that way.
So, as someone who recently received stem cell injections, I'm curious about what you think are the most important factors in maximizing the benefits of these treatments. What should I be focusing on during my recovery here?
Oh, I think some of the general consensus would be, like, especially since you just got it today, make sure you're staying extra hydrated, because that's healthy cells need water. So make sure you're drinking extra water for the next few weeks at least. That's good for your cells. Try to limit smoking, drinking. If you're going to do it, just make sure you drink more water. So just know that smoking and drinking dehydrates you. So I don't know your lifestyle or care. I don't judge, but just know that staying hydrated is key after a stem cell treatment for the first few weeks and months.
Staying hydrated after stem cells is very important, keeping the cells healthy and
Yep.
flowing and all that. So your appearance on Andy Elliott's podcast was quite impactful for me.
Yep.
How was being on a platform like that? How has it shaped your approach?
It's been good. In fact, he just dropped our second one last night.
I watched it. It was very good.
Okay, yeah, the second one. I actually haven't watched it yet. I don't really like watching myself on these things, so I'm not sure that I will watch it. But it's been good. I mean, we've gotten a ton of business from it, a lot of interest. I'm going to another conference with him in a couple of weeks. His master closer event. I'm probably going to go to most of his events. He loves it. Andy Ellie does it himself, and he swears by it. His whole team, his whole workout team, and we've treated a lot of shoulders, backs, knees, hips. So they're big believers. It's been good. It's opened up. There's a lot of people in his world and his sphere that we're hoping to get close to as well. Other people like Andy Elliott. So that's kind of the big picture there with Regenerative Revival. So Regenerative Revival, part of my business is when we go at like affiliates, people like Andy Elliott. So we're hoping to get, continue to work with him, build that base. And then he's probably going to introduce us to more people in that sphere. Okay.
So do you think there's a huge correlation between mindset and recovery, especially when you go on like having a procedure, something like stem cell or, therapy? Do you think there's a huge correlation between mindset and recovery and mental strength?
I think so. I mean, I think mindset, just for not just recovery, but for everything, right? Everything we do, having the proper mindset is huge. And I think that's absolutely true when it comes to fitness, recovery, mind over matter. There's obviously science that's going on. That's not to say that this is woo woo. And if you don't have the right mindset, the stem cells won't work. But yeah, everything about fitness, like making yourself do it, the recovery side, it's hard work, and it starts with mindset.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like mindset is everything in your recovery. So we have things like Neuralink coming out and AI. There's been a emphasis on that. What are your thoughts on the intersection of technology such as Neuralink with stem cell research and regenerative medicine?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to plead ignorant on this. I have not really tried to think. I haven't given one thought about Neuralink and how it pertains to stem cells, but I'm glad you brought that up because I know what I'm going to be researching over the weekend. So I don't have any insight on that because I have not looked, but I will look into it.
Do you stay updated with the latest research and developments and therapies and recovery and stuff like that?
I do. Yep.
Okay. Do you personally stay in peak health and wellness? Are you always trying to work out and gain an advantage in that way?
I do my best, man. Anything I can do to fight Father Time. I'm kind of obsessed with that. So stem cells are a huge part of that. For a lot of reasons, recovery, injury, because at 41, I've been lifting heavy for years. I still play basketball a few days a week. I'm in like hoops leagues. So that's kind of a source of pride for me to make sure my knees and my joints are good enough to keep doing that. So, I'm doing everything I can. Stem cells are just the best. I mean, it's the cream of the crop. That's why they're expensive. But yeah, I personally, that's why I think I was meant for this business. Like I said, I didn't really go into it looking for it. So maybe it's luck or God or whatever you want to believe. But certainly the way I think really fits in well with this industry because I'm all about optimizing what the body can do, stretching out the prime, stretching my prime out as much as I can. I've got two boys at 12 and 8, and they're great athletes. I spend half my time watching them play now too. So it's kind of fun to be like, hey, I can still go out there and do the stuff that they're doing, and I want to keep being able to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's very important. especially when you have kids, you want to have the healthiest future for them to be able to provide and set their future up in the best way you can.
And I want them to see me. I want them to see me as a healthy, vibrant dad, because not trying to shit on anybody, but there's a lot of dads. Some of them are in great shape, but at age 40, you can go one of two ways. You can look and act like you're 60, or you can kind of be what I'm trying to be, which is somebody that's still trying to stay in it. And, like, I'm not like, oh, I used to be this or that. It's like, no, I'm trying to still be, I'm trying to get stronger, trying to get better. So I think that's important. I certainly hope my boys are seeing that and think it's cool that their dad has big muscles or still plays basketball, all that type of stuff. So, yeah.
So for someone like me, say someone in my situation is watching this, who is actively trying to recover and improve their quality of life, how can stem cells play a role in their long-term wellness and recovery?
Well, I mean, I know that because you've done it before and you've done a lot of research, the potential for stem cells to regenerate some of the nerve damage. I mean, obviously that would be the best case scenario, I think, right? As you get some nerve regeneration, some movement back. I don't know this, because I'm not your doctor. I don't know the specifics of your injury, but I think you're on the right path. I'm pretty excited about us doing the stem cells directly into those areas again. Feeling better. Obviously, the better you feel, the more likely you are to want to go work out, the more likely you are to want to do things that are beneficial to you. So feeling good, half of this is, starts with feeling good, and which is why I like NAD plus too, because it helps me feel good, and I feel good. I feel focused. It makes me want to go to the gym. It makes me want to work harder. So I'd say that it all plays together.
Awesome. I appreciate all the knowledge you've given me today and the audience. I feel like that would have whoever's listening to this have helped them out tremendously in deciding whether they want to go through with this procedure or not. We just got one more question for you. I know your time is valuable. You got a lot of things to go to and attend to. So if you could have dinner with any historical figure who had a significant impact on medicine or health, who would you do it with? Who would it be and why?
Ooh, good one. Any historical figure. See, I'm a history nerd. So when you said any historical figure, I started thinking, Napoleon or Alexander the Great. But then you said on the medical side.
Are there any historical figures you can think of that have had a huge impact on medicine that got us to where we are today?
This is going to be a corny answer, but the person that discovered Dr. Wharton is the one that he discovered Wharton's jelly, which is actually where we get the stem cells from. So this is in like 1754, 1794, but he was studying the umbilical cord, and the stuff that runs through every umbilical cord, you guys can look this up. It's called Wharton's jelly, Whartons, named after Dr. Wharton. And he's the one that discovered that this gelatinous, gooey stuff that runs through the umbilical cord has all sorts of life-saving nutrients. He probably didn't know about stem cells but he knew there was collagen and all that other good stuff in there. So just because he put me on the spot about the medical thing, I'll say Dr. Wharton, because we're talking about stem cells today. And I would love to pick his brain to be like, what made you even want to look into this? And I think it'd be cool to show him, be like, look what we've done because of your discovery. Look at, now all these people are doing it. It's regenerating tissues. That he would be fun to talk to, because I'm sure he had no idea where it would go after his discovery.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Wharton on that. Yeah. I think I had Wharton's jelly today, actually.
You did. Yep, you did. Yeah. And your stem cells in the IV is also Wharton's jelly derived. It's processed differently, but yeah, Wharton's jelly is that's the best of the best type of stem cell. It's Wharton's jelly, for those listening, runs through every umbilical cord. So whether you want to call it umbilical cord stem cells or Wharton's jelly stem cells, most people say umbilical cord because nobody has ever heard of Wharton's jelly. So I don't blame you. It's kind of an insider thing, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was an enlightening conversation with our guest here today, Seth from Regenerative Medicine. I hope all of you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. We covered a lot of topics today, from the basics of stem cells to the future of regenerative medicine and how it can help recovery and beyond. If you found this episode valuable, please make sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to the podcast for more insightful discussions. Don't forget to follow Seth. I'm going to link his information down at the bottom and where you can connect with him.
And also, Mark, if anybody goes to gotstemcells.com, all one word, it does take them to a landing page that's got a lot of info about how to set up an appointment for a consultation call. That's where you went from Andy Elliott's. Yeah.
So you guys heard him, gotstemcells.com. Are you on social media at all? Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, we are. Yep. So at Regenerative Revival, but really the best thing to go to, we haven't built up the Regenerative Revival social media as much as we should. If you just want to learn about us, go to gotstemcells.com. You can go to my personal Instagram, which is sberge, SBERGE _33, SBERGE _33. That's my personal Instagram. I've got a lot of info on there, but I'll send that to you.
Well, I'll link everything down at the bottom, how you guys can connect with him and get with his company. So don't forget to follow him and check him out there and his company for more information on stem cell treatments. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
We will. Thank you, Mark. Good luck.
Nice talking to you, Seth. See you again. All right, guys. Seth there. Very insightful conversation there that we just had. Very interesting stuff. Very helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed that little segment of the podcast. We're going to be jumping into a little bit more information here and more topics to learn some more about stem cells and fasting and everything involved with that. So I'm about to share with you guys another interesting article. And we're going to talk a little bit more about fasting and stem cell rejuvenation. So let's get right into it. This article is titled Fasting for Stem Cell Rejuvenation, and this is by the National Library of Medicine. Not too long of a article here, but very insightful and packed with information. Throughout the centuries, humankind has relentlessly searched for ways to live longer and healthier lives, from the fountain of youth quest to novel senolytics, from alchemical recipes to modern diets. So different approaches have been pursued to fulfill the human desire for prolonging life while maintaining good shape. Among all anti-aging interventions, calorie-restricted diets and periods of fasting stands out the most for compelling and robust methods to prolong life and health span and to reduce the risk of diabetes, neurodegeneration, autoimmune diseases, spontaneous tumors, and cardiovascular disease. Furthermore, dietary interventions are also emerging as important enhancers of adult stem cell function. However, little is known on how prolonged fasting alters the function and properties of adult stem cells. Since fasting outcomes are conserved across taxa, studying fasting is in species that possess many stem cells and can cope with long periods of food deprivation can be exceedingly informative. Planarians, better known for their impressive regenerative capacities, can be deprived of food for more than 3 months without showing an impairment in either physiology or activity levels. They handle prolonged periods of starvation or fasting by shrinking in size. Around 25% of the cells in their parenchyma or adult stem cells, which are kept in the constant ration respect to their body size. So increasingly, refeeding allows fasted planarians to grow back to their original size. Their stem cells do not show any signs of senescence, and hence they are considered immortal. How fasting influences planarian stem cell properties is unknown. Wow. So with fasting or deprivation of food, calories of any sort, they're saying that this planarian would shrink its size, and then once refeeding would get back to its original size, which has implications for humans because, as we know, when we do fast, that our organs decrease in size usually, and they after the refeeding process, they grow back to how they normally were. So that means that The shrinking and periods of prolonged starvation plays a huge part in our organ health. So we have recently reported the effect of fasting on planarian stem cells regarding telomere length. Telomeres protect chromosomes from DNA degradation and misguided repair mechanisms. Proper telomere functioning requires a minimum length that is to maintain by telomerase. So, however, telomerase activity levels in adult tissues are not sufficient to prevent progressive telomere shortening with age. Therefore, telomere length is considered a cellular marker of aging. By measuring telomere length in situ on whole planarians, we found that fasted planarians present a higher percentage of stem cells with the longest telomeres, indicating that fasting rejuvenates the stem cell pool. Having a population of stem cells with very long telomeres allows planarians to quickly respond to any injury even while fasting. It also allows them to mount a long-term proliferation response as soon as nutrients become available again. Therefore, natural cycles of fasting and feeding promote the maintenance of a healthy and always cycling stem cell population, thus making planarians immortal. So have any of you guys in the chat heard about immortal beings? Because, contrary to popular belief, there are species out there that can replicate their cells and their telomere length and live forever. Data shows that the enrichment of stem cells with long telomeres during fasting occurs through the inhibition of mTOR signaling, a pathway known to enhance stem cell function during dietary restriction. The easy explanation to understand how mTOR downregulation elongates telomeres is through a reduction in mitosis. It is indeed known that mTOR signaling regulates the mitotic response to amputation and blastema growth. However, while fasting increasing telomere length, the number of mitosis and stem cells remains constant. Other factors that there's other factors than cell division that may modulate telomere length. For instance, exonucleases or oxygen levels. It is also feasible that stem cells with the shortest telomeres are considered less fit or loser, being selected to either die or differentiate, and contributing in this way to a general increase in telomere length in the remaining stem cell pool. Increasingly, mTOR signaling has been linked to cell competition and an mTOR controlled process. Autophagy has been shown to be required by loser cells to die. The question still remains on whether fasting affects other molecular cellular processes in planarian stem cells. Ongoing research will clarify this. So both activation of telomerase and long telomere length are known to positively correlate with stem cell pluripotency. Interestingly, we find that stem cell population is highly heterogeneous for telomere length, correlating with their known heterogeneity with regards to potency and lineage commitment. We also find that fasting not only increases the percentage of stem cells with long telomeres, but also increases the maximum telomere length in planarian stem cells. Although leads to attract hypothesis that fasting by modulating mTOR signaling may increase pluripotency in planarians, our work opens many interesting endeavors, which we predict will help in the understanding of regeneration and stem cell aging. So we're seeing here that telomerase and telomere length play a huge part in our longevity, in our lifespan. So the planarians there are shown that rejuvenating the telomeres with fasting positively benefits you longevity wise, health wise, and other ways. So let's look at this video here about stem cells that I found with an interesting title titled "Amazing Benefits of Fasting: How They Boost Your Stem Cells." This is by Dr. Nick Z or Nick Zyrowski. So let's get right into it. Interesting title here.
In this video, you'll discover how to naturally boost stem cells in your own body. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Zarowski, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join our notification community so I can boost them naturally, which is super cool, right? You see all these people going and getting these fancy, thousands of dollars worth of injections in order to boost stem cells in their body and promote healing, especially as they age. Well, you can actually boost stem cells in your body, research proven, through fasting. Now, stem cells, if you're not familiar with them, they're a type of cell that have the unique and remarkable ability to turn into many types of cells. And so, for instance, when we look at these stem cells, they're able to turn into brain cells, heart cells, bone cells, blood cells, gastrointestinal cells, and as a result, they're able to boost the function of these different organs of the entire body. Now, when we look at stem cells, they decline as we age, and they're the raw.
Okay, so let's take a little quick break here. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone watching across our 3 platforms that we're live on, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we're actually on Rumble. So four platforms that we're on here. Shout out to the chat. We got Charlie Don't Surf here asking how you doing today. Shout out to Charlie in chat. How are you doing today, man? Today's a great day. Always a great day. Hope you're doing well out there and continue to do well and stay blessed, brother. So let's get right back into this video here.
Raw material that is needed in order to boost the new production of these different types of cells. And so if they decline as we age, then essentially what happens is, we start to have more issues as we age. That's why our health starts to fall apart and deteriorate as we age, especially once we get way up there in years, because we just don't have that ability to have those stem cells. And so when we look at the stem cells, how we can boost them, we can actually use fasting. And let's talk about what some of the research points to. So a lot of it points to a 24-plus-hour fast. This is why I'm a big advocate of doing a 24-hour fast once a week, doing a 3-day fast once a month, or even a 3-day-plus fast, 4-day, 6-day.
Like I said at the beginning of the video, I am currently on day 3 of my fast. I'm going to be hitting 72 hours here tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So I feel like these 3-day fasts are really beneficial for me overall, just eliminating brain fog, eliminating inflammation. And I feel amazing every morning I wake up from a day that I've fasted. And so that's how I really know that it has incredible benefits for us. Even doing something like a 24-hour fast, which is considered a little bit shorter and not as hard, can have a lot of benefits on regenerating our immune system and recycling old cells and promoting healthy aging.
And when you look at fasting like this, you're going to get that stem cell benefit, because what Dr. Longo's research shows us is that it decreases this PKA enzyme. And when that enzyme decreases, he refers to it as flipping that regenerative switch and turning those stem cells on. And so that's why fasting is so great. It's going to reverse that age-related loss of stem cells, which is so powerful. It's going to recycle the old cells. Now, when we start looking at recycling old cells, we're thinking of autophagy here. So you recycle those old broken down, dilapidated cells that have no purpose, all these excess cells, you break those down, you recycle them, you make new ones, you make these stem cells. It starts to protect against immune system damage. How many people are suffering from, hyperimmunity, autoimmune disorders? I recently just did a video on the benefits of fasting, which I'll put in the description below, that covers this. But, when we look at fasting in general, it helps a lot of these people who are suffering from all these autoimmune disorders. So powerful stuff there. It's going to help regenerate the immune system, and also is going to promote healthy aging. So if we want to age well, if we want to really maintain our health, this fasting is very powerful for boosting those that raw material, those stem cells, which can be turned into all these different cells and help regenerate the body. And so let's go ahead and use fasting in order to boost some of these stem cells, and not just focus on, these thousands of dollars worth of therapies that can actually boost stem cells. Let's do it naturally in the body on a regular basis. And then from there, we're going to see incredible improvements in our health. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up.
Okay, awesome video there by Nick, Dr. Nick. A lot of impactful information there on how fasting can benefit our stem cell production and contribute to our overall health and well-being. We have another article here, and this is actually a video by Dr. Seth Berge, titled "Using Fasting to Enhance Stem Cells." Dr. Berge on intermittent fasting and cell regeneration. So let's see if he's saying some of the similar stuff here and validating all of our points.
Talk about fasting and stem cells. Now, I hate to break the news, but you are going to die eventually. Okay, hopefully not anytime soon, but this video is about extending your life a little bit longer, okay, and increasing the quality. Now, as far as aging goes, in the cell, it has to do with an inability to repair. Okay, so when a cell can no longer repair, it ages fast. Now, if we can actually replace these old cells that can't repair, then we can live longer. And we do that through what's called stem cells. A stem cell is a cell that doesn't really have a purpose yet. Okay, it turns into something when the body needs a certain cell. Now, there are certain parts of your body.
So he's saying here that stem cells are cells that don't have a purpose yet, and they will turn into something that would help you regenerate. So say you got, as we talked about, tissue damage or cartilage damage, these stem cells would be used to regenerate these certain specific cells that you would need to regenerate. So fasting would be able to help your stem cells and create more and stronger stem cells in your body, which can be used for healing and cell regeneration.
That turn over new cells very quickly. Others take longer, and some never turn over any new cells. Okay, but the hippocampus in the brain is a part of the brain that is involved like a relay switch with your memories and stress responses. And this is one area that you can actually have a turnover of new cells. You can actually regenerate cells in this part of the body. Thank goodness for that. And then even
Talking
beta
about the
cells,
hippocampus
there's
in the
been
brain.
studies in mice that you can actually have stem cell replace the beta cell, that's where insulin is produced. And if you have
Talking about if you're listening to the audio version, the B cells in the pancreas,
insulin type,
which produces insulin in your body, so it can be used for regeneration of these organs.
one, you have some severe damage to that cell. Even bone, the immune cells in bone can be replaced. Colon cells, they replace very, very quick. The skin cells get replaced pretty quick. So what really triggers the stem cells is prolonged fasting, okay? Like I'm talking like 72 hours or even longer. So if you were to do periodic prolonged fasting, you're going to greatly improve stem cell. The fat burning effect that occurs with fasting really helps to fuel these stem cells. Now, there's something called PKA. Okay, this is a gene that needs to be shut down for stem cells to spread and rebuild. And guess what will lower this? Prolonged fasting. And there's a few reasons why fasting will increase your lifespan. The stimulation of stem cell is definitely one of them. So I'm going to be covering a lot more of this in the upcoming summit. I put a link down below for more information. Hope to see you there.
Nice. Shout out to Dr. Berge for that information. He kind of just reiterated some of the points that we've been talking about here with Seth and some of the articles that I brought up recently. This is another video by Found My Fitness by Rhonda Patrick, who's been on the Joe Rogan podcast and a lot of other podcasts. I really like her podcast and her information that she spreads, a lot of nutritional and longevity type research that she shares with a lot of her audience. So we're going to look at one of her clips here titled The Role of Fasting Induced Ketosis in Stem Cell Activation and Cell Renewal. And she's sitting here with Dr. Walter Longo, who is a huge doctor in the regenerative medicine field. And so let's see what they got to talk about here.
Adipotic stem cells, like I'm not sure about with other stem cells in other tissues, but I know that when they're quiescent, when they're not dividing, they are glycolytic, meaning they use glucose for energy because they don't want to damage themselves with reactive oxygen species being generated from, as a byproduct of mitochondrial function, right? But I do know that when they come out of quiescence and they come out to either self-renew or differentiate into progenitor cells, they become oxidative phosphorylation becomes their source of making energy. And so I'm wondering if there's what the signal. I know you've published some studies on looking at different signaling pathways that are required to cause this hematopoietic stem cell self-renewal mechanism, but I'm wondering if possibly just not having the glucose available and having just the fatty acids, the source of energy that can only be used by mitochondria, if that somehow also is playing a role in making them self-renew more or differentiate more.
I think so, and this is the work by David Sabatini and others at MIT, and they're doing work on the fat and the role of fat and fatty acids, etc., on self-renewal and on the activation of stem cells, particularly in the gut. So yeah, there seems to be a role for fat in that, and I think it's still. We're still beginning to understand it. I think obviously with fasting you produce fat and you produce fatty acids and glycerol and ketone bodies. So
Glycerol, also known as a sugar alcohol compound. Let's get right back into this. Dropped it here. So glycerol, also known as a sugar alcohol compound.
The environment is there, and we need.
Which is also the backbone for triglycerides. So that's what glycerol, the sugar alcohol compound, is.
To maybe understand more how each component that is changing is affecting the program. So we made the decision to try to. I think things are going very slow, and we've always been very interested in people that have a problem now, right? Instead of, a lot of people are like, well, in 20 years we'll have this. And we always say, there's people that have cancer now, they have multiple sclerosis now. So what do you do for them, right? And so our decision has been always understand enough the mechanisms to be able to not or minimize the chance of making mistakes, get to the disease, get to the clinical trial, and then go back and fill it in, right? Rather than step by step, and then it'll take you 15 years to get to the clinical trial. So I mean, I'm not criticizing the other method, but I'm just saying that for us has been get the mechanism, get enough mechanism, move to the clinical trial, and then make sure it's safe.
It's been fantastic. I mean, you've been able to translate so many different studies. I mean, it's really quite phenomenal. I'm just sort of thinking, in fact, I just thought about it when you were mentioning the ketone bodies too. Well, ketone bodies are a more, if you think about the stem cells, and if they need energy to differentiate or self-renew, ketone bodies would actually provide a very energetically favorable source, because it takes less oxygen actually to convert.
So hold on, let's get back into it. So ketone bodies, we all heard of the ketogenic diet. They're molecules that are produced by the liver from fatty acids during periods of low food intake or fasting, carbohydrate restrictive diet, starvation, or prolonged intense exercise. Examples include acetate, beta hydroxybutyrate, and these are used for energy for a diverse array of cell types, including neurons.
Beta hydroxybutyrate into acetyl-CoA as opposed to glucose into pyruvate. So if you think about it, it's more energetically favorable to have ketone bodies, and so maybe it also helps just because it takes less energy to do this process. I mean, it's possible, but
I think there's also mechanisms. Again, the fasting imposes this new metabolic profile, and the new metabolic profile requires the stem cells for this regeneration that I mentioned. So if you got to get rid of half of your liver, let's say that you fast for a month and a half, right? Then you must, you will produce tons of fatty acids and tons of ketone bodies, and that environment is going to require the stem cells to be renewing and being standing by for the day where you need to make a new liver, essentially, or health of the liver, right? So this is why I think it's all a part of a coordinated response where you have the fat, and by then the fat is one of the few abundant sources of energy also for the stem cells. So they really have no choice but to be ready to respond to fat metabolites so that they can self-renew, because there's not much sugar around, and the brain needs the sugar, by the way, right? So the brain needs a lot of the sugar that is available. A lot of it is made by gluconeogenesis. So it makes
Red blood
sense.
cells need it,
Yeah.
since they have no mitochondria.
Right, and so it makes sense that you will have a system like that that is fat and fatty acid. And
Gluconeogenesis is a metabolic pathway in which the liver produces glucose from non-carbohydrate substrates, including glycogenic amino acids from protein and glycerol from lipids.
And ketone body
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a great little discussion right there by Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Walter Alongo. So I want to get into one more topic here on the podcast today to share with you guys a little interesting topic that I found. Little article that I found interesting here by Tanned Feline online, tannedfonline.com. This was from December 2013, so it's been quite a while talking about exoskeletons in a disabilities context, the need for social and ethical research. So let's get into a little bit of exoskeleton talk. I know that a lot of people are interested in the future of exoskeletons, especially people with disabilities, on how they can help improve independence and walking and everything that these wearable robots can do for our overall health and well-being and independence. So let's talk about the potential of exoskeletons here. While they receive some attention in military-focused research, exoskeletons are also garnering attention in the civilian world, in particular for people who have disabilities. This article describes some of the technical, social, and ethical aspects of exoskeletons in a disabilities context. This paper's main purpose, though, will to shine light on the dearth of social, scientific, and ethical analysis of this subject, and in doing so, show that these technologies, which are quickly moving from emerging to available, can no longer be overlooked as a subject to study. The potential of exoskeletons defined as powered, wearable robots that can enhance the user's strength and endurance has many groups excited. It should be not surprising to find that militaries have staked an interest in developing exoskeletons for equipping their future soldiers. Such machines could allow warfighters to carry heavy loads while still maintaining their mobility and speed, as well as to wield larger weapons and armor with greater ease. So guys, we're right on the verge of becoming robots and using robots for war and for upgrading our ability to fight and carry heavy and large objects, and to increase our mobility and speed on the battlefield. And we can also use this for creating independence for people with disabilities. So in the popular imagination, exoskeletons are often thought of as a quasi-military terms. Consider the blockbuster science fiction film Elysium, great movie, which takes place in a dystopian world with a stark divide between those who possess advanced technology and those who do not. A divide so stark that the former group lives in a beautiful, luxurious space station, while the latter live on a ravaged, dirty Earth. Central to the film's plot, in a high-tech exoskeleton surgically grafted onto the main character that provides him with superhuman strength and endurance, which he, of course, uses as a kick-ass in true Hollywood fashion. And before Elysium, superheroes like Iron Man have been tossing around cars and bad guys with their powered suits for decades. Exoskeletons are, however, shaping up to have an impact in non-military contexts too, in the civilian world. They can serve primarily as alternatives to traditional mobility-oriented assistive technologies and can provide more possibilities, such as walking, climbing, and reaching, than wheelchairs and crutches. They can be used as temporary rehabilitation equipment that can, for example, support physical therapists in helping a person regain full or sufficient function of bodily movements, or they can serve as a semi-permanent systems that can substitute for parts of the user's body disabled by severe illness or injury. Engineers are making technical progress in exoskeletons, and companies are beginning to stake a claim in the emerging market. Yet, there remains a dearth of social, scientific, and ethical analysis into these technologies. After gaining a technical foundation, this article will raise some questions about exoskeletal ethics and sociopolitics. In doing so, it will point the potential avenues of much needed research, which should occur between before having exoskeletons and which are widely incorporated into society. So if you've ever gone to a physical therapist, sometimes they will have robot assisted technologies such as exoskeletons that will help you walk. But you would need a lot of times you would need a lot of upper body and or lower body or both to use these type of technologies for your recovery and for doing therapy. So it's really at its early stages, but we're still this article is a little bit old, and I think we've made some progress since, but we're still in the early stages of using robots to completely give us independence. So unlike standalone robots, exoskeletons are akin to cyborg technology. They integrate with a human to create a mechanical organic system composed of complementary subsystems. For instance, for most people with neuromuscular diseases and central nervous system injuries, muscle weakness is the primary cause of disability. In contrast, robotic manipulators can perform tasks requiring large forces. The exoskeleton's movement control algorithms, though, are not nearly as refined as human mind's ability to direct bodily movement. So combining the robotic strength and endurance with human dexterity and intelligence ostensibly creates a superior entity. There are technical barriers to overcome before the optimistic visions of exoskeletons can be fulfilled. For exoskeletons to be useful, they must complement rather than impede or constrain the human body's natural kinematics. That is, the body's way of moving. Designing a functional exoskeleton that can accommodate the range of degrees of freedom, or DOF, human limbs have, such as the 7 DOF in the arm, all of which are needed to complete many common daily activities, has proven to be a challenge. So these robots are useful in certain areas, but they cannot completely mimic how humans move and our dexterity and our ability to move in awkward angles and different positions. We're still trying to figure out how robots can help us completely adapt and become successful with getting our independence back. So lower limb exoskeletons may be easier to design, at least at first, because successful ones do not require such a high level of DOF and nimble control. The Robo Knee, for example, is based on an off-the-shelf knee brace that has a series of mechanical and robotic additions made to it. The Robo Knee only has 1 DOF. Users can bend their knees such as they do when they're walking or squatting, but this is not enough to endow users with enhancements while walking, climbing, carrying, and so on. In the clearest demonstration, a user was able to do one-legged deep knee bends with a 60-kilogram backpack load filled with sand without getting tired. Wow. So without the assistance of the Robo Knee, the same user could only do 2 to 3 one-legged knee bends with this weight. On the order of 10 when using 10 legs. So an exoskeleton goes through a series of general cyclical steps when it's providing mobility assistance to the user. The exoskeleton control system uses sensors like ones that collect electromyography signals to determine what position the user's body is in. When the user is ready to move, the exoskeleton then uses those signals to determine the user's intended action. The control system selects a pre-programmed movement pattern, adjusts to its user's current position, and supports the movement with actuators using the appropriate force. Once the movement is complete, the exoskeleton analyzes the new position and intentions and makes new selections as needed. So scroll up a little bit back here. So there have been real advances in exoskeletons, specifically a handful of models focused on the lower extremities. Consider the Berkeley Lower Extremity Exoskeleton, or BLEEX, which consists of two powered anthropomorphic legs, a power unit, and a backpack-like frame on which a variety of heavy loads can be mounted. So the BLEEX will allow its users to carry heavy loads easily over any type of terrain where humans can walk, all while maintaining a high level of DOF. BLEEX is primarily designed as an exoskeleton for people who need to haul equipment or goods such as soldiers, disaster relief workers, or wildfighters, and other emergency personnel. However, as the first field operational exoskeleton as it is served as a key stepping stone for other models and advances. Many of the researchers in the lab that created BLEEX went on to found the company Esco Bionics and created the Exoskeleton. According to the description on its website, Exo provides a means for people with as much as complete paralysis and minimal forearm strength to stand and walk. Oh, that's absolutely incredible. Over ground with a natural full weight-bearing reciprocal gait. Exo is currently used in rehabilitation clinics with plans to bring it to the consumer market in 2014. And I've seen a couple of these. A lot of times, paras, rather than quadriplegics, can use these type of equipment because of their ability to use their upper body and to control the robot with their arms. But it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for these exoskeletons and if we can get them to people with higher level injuries. So moreover, a exoskeleton created by the Japanese company Cyberdyne has just recently passed German safety tests, paving the way for the suit to be sold in other parts of Europe, including the UK. There are two types of HOL systems, or hybrid assisted limb. Not quite a reassuring name if one remembers the AI antagonist HAL 900 from the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. There are two types of HAL systems, HAL systems, that can assist users in performing everyday living activities. The HAL3 provides leg functions like walking, standing, climbing, deep knee bends, and so on, while HAL5 is a full body exoskeleton that also includes arms and torso capabilities. The HAL is different than many exoskeletons in how svelte, light, and aesthetically futuristic it looks. So exoskeleton ethics and sociopolitics. So when talking about exoskeleton ethics and how they shape our society and the politics, a search for literature on the human and social dimensions of exoskeletons reveals a dearth of work, a large gap that has hardly been looked into. Exoskeletons are often mentioned in passing among other military technologies that could enter the battlefield. For example, a recent report written by a group of technology ethics and lawyers. So it mentions that exoskeletons 4 times, none of which are substantial. There is little empirical, social, or scientific data, for instance, about the connection formed between the person and the exoskeleton. So how do people use exoskeletons? How do they perceive exoskeletons? What type of agent is the human exoskeleton? How does personhood change with exoskeletons that are worn versus ones that are surgically integrated into the body, among many other questions? These are all questions that arise. Such a gap is an oversight for philosophers and social scientists alike, especially because the technical trajectory indicates that exoskeletons will soon be found in the wild and perhaps in the near future be widely used. So if we are going to understand how these technologies can be more responsibly designed and innovated, then there are ethics and social politics that will be quickly spotlighted here for analysis. So the lack of analysis is likely caused by a confluence or different factors, which are admittedly speculative at this point. Exoskeletons are both new and emerging technologies and have been straddling the line in the realms of engineering and popular culture for 50 years at least. There is thus little buzz around them that might spark serious socio-ethical research. The ramifications that near exoskeletons might have also seem like unalloyed goods. Soldiers and workers can carry heavy loads, and disabled people can gain more mobility, which is great, right? So exoskeletons have quite a technical jump to make before they become widely used in ethics, and social scientists are simply compelled to examine them, as the authors of the above-mentioned report explain. Exoskeletons today, then, are mere tools, as they are bulky and cannot be easily worn for a long stretch of time. But if they were to become much more lightweight and unobtrusive, perhaps wearable like a shirt, then a case could be made for declaring them an enhancement. However, there is no reason to wait until that point. Serious studies should be conducted now while it is still relative early, and opportunities for social shaping and governance are easier to implement. Which I agree there, because people who have a disability, we're not really wanting to wait. We're not really willing to wait 30, 40, 50 years, although it may take time for that type of research and technology to develop to that point. People in my situation, we don't have that long, and it would be widely available. If it were to be, then that would help out a lot of people now, and before governance and the government decides to take away rights or implement any more laws that could influence the ability for people to not be able to use these type of devices. So exoskeletons have also benefited from a cascade of positive press coverage. For example, when Exo was revealed, it caused quite a splash. In 2010, Wired Magazine and Time both put Exo on their list of top gadgets and innovations, respectively. In 2012, Inc. magazine named Exo one of the 5 big deals for the next 15 years. On Veterans Day in 2013, Army pilot Gary Linfoot, who crushed his spine 5 years ago in a crash in Iraq, became the first veteran to receive an Exo, which will allow him to stand and walk again. And on 17th of November 2013, the largest gathering of users of Rewalk, another brand of exoskeleton that allows paraplegics and people with other disabilities to walk again, showed up in New York City to participate in the Generosity 5K, which raises money for the Bronx Veterans Medical Research Foundation. The Rewalk suit is currently available only in the Middle East and Europe, said Larry Jasinski, the CEO of Argo Medical Technologies, the company that makes Rewalk. So Jasinski also says that he hopes to have FDA approval to sell the suits in the United States for an approximate $65,000, which for a device that's giving you back complete mobility and independence to a user that has a disability, I would say $65,000 is not a bad price for something like that. That would completely change the life of someone. At that point, it's really not about money, but obviously, someone in my situation or somebody with a disability may not be able to easily come across something like this due to lack of ability to work or problems with any type of critical situation that arises. You would need to be able to fund that as well. So having something like insurance cover a suit like this, I feel like should be paramount for study and should be something that we look forward into as a society. And it would not only benefit people with disability, but it would progress our safety and our security for our soldiers to be able to defend our country. And so this is not to say that such press coverage is unwarranted. It is clear that exoskeletons can do a lot of good for people with disabilities, but it is also clear why critical analysis is lacking. The view that exoskeletons such as Exo, Bleeks, or Hall are a step towards progress is even more straightforward than many other technologies. After all, they grant new or restore old abilities to users who are otherwise relying on wheelchairs. And with these abilities come other positive health benefits that occur due to standing and walking. By restoring at least partially a person's ability to engage in daily life activities, exoskeletons present a more supportive and rehabilitative option than other current current technologies that we have. So it is not hard to imagine how an exoskeleton user could become dependent on a device that provides so many capabilities. And with dependency also comes withdrawal. If access to the device is somehow lost due to finances, cessation of a research study, military discharge, technical malfunctioning, or any other circumstance. These issues of dependency and withdrawal should play into social scientific inquiries around exoskeletons. Similarly, there are tough questions related to health insurance and the differences between categorizing the device as a rehabilitative prosthesis or an enhancement. The distinction between these categories is not discrete, but exoskeletons can cause the boundaries to become even fuzzier and even less straightforward, as sociologist Jenny Davis explains. So we're running into the point here where we're looking at research studies and how these devices can would be able to create enhancement for even the normal person, rather than giving it to someone who would need it for a rehabilitative prosthesis. So this argument that XO, for instance, represents a step backwards, a move towards the further denigration of physically impaired bodies. Here we have a product made to improve the lives of those with spinal cord injuries, and yet it implies that walking rather than wheeling is necessarily the preferable state of mobility. And I think anybody with a spinal cord injury can attest to that walking would be much better than, riding in a wheelchair, and giving us that independence back. So the EXO is built to enhance and fix the impaired or disabled body so that it fits into societal conceptions of what it means to be able-bodied, rather than changing the environment and cultural definitions of able and disabled, both of which are dynamic over time. Exoskeletons work within and even enforce structures of ableism and privilege. In this way, exoskeletons could be cast as inherently conservative technologies. The common normative framing of enhancement as a matter of individual self-actualization, autonomy, and freedom of choice has too often stifled the ability to give equal weight to the risks posed by dual use or by adoption of a collective level. Exoskeletons ultimately raise questions about the politics and ethics of ableism that deserve careful attention. So over time, conceptions of disability have and will necessarily continue to change. Such changes are to be expected as people gain new abilities and new ways of living. Enhancement technologies and the ideologies of transhumanism that accompany them in these contexts will fast track this change. Billions of people today who are seen as able will become disabled, not because of their bodies have changed, but precisely because they have not changed their bodies in accordance with the transhumanist norm. However, we do not have to wait for a transhumanist future to see how values and norms about what bodies are supposed to look like and be able to do can influence real people making real choices. Technologies like exoskeletons are designed to fit people into the existing social and environmental structures of what is normal. And those who cannot afford exoskeletons remain disabled and dispowered. So now we're coming to a hierarchy with these technologies, right? So say you have a exoskeleton or something that can enable you and your abilities with this type of technology much better than, say, your classmate. We're running into a lot of socioeconomic problems for people who can't afford the technology or aren't given the choice to have this type of technology. So the point here, of course, is not that exoskeletons should not be developed and not that they are inherently an ableist technology. Neither is it that people should have choices about rehabilitation and restoration. The point is rather that while exoskeletons are being designed and before they are widely incorporated into society, the questions raised here, among others, should at least be on the table and perhaps even tentatively, if not definitely, answered. So put simply, any serious consideration, whether critique, condemnation, or support of enhancement technologies must also incorporate critical inquiry about ethics, politics, justice, and social relations. Exoskeletons are likely to increase the quality of life for many people, but they are expected to do so one machine at a time. For those who are privileged enough to have access, and by reinforcing ideas about what it means to be normal and able, rather than embracing a natural variation of being for humans. These are the type of critical avenues of research that are missing in largely technical literature of exoskeleton. So, and there are many other lines of analysis and data waiting to be formulated and gathered, with a number of different exoskeletons either available or scheduled to be on the market soon. Social scientists and ethicists have overlooked this technology, especially in its non-military uses, for far too long. And my thought and opinion on all of this is that we are getting to the point here with AI and technologies and advancements that we're all going to have to evolve and adapt either way. So I feel like it's important for us to be able to get in line with technology and the advancements, and to be able to realize that these technologies are inevitable, and that it's going to come to a point where we're all going to be integrated with AI. So that's my opinion on the socioeconomic impact for exoskeletons and their abilities to help us as a society. So they're being developed either way. So we need to integrate and get in line with the future that they're going to create for us. So I got a video on this titled "The Robot Boot That Learns as You Walk." So I found an interesting title by Nature Video. So let's jump right into this. Shout out to everybody watching still and listening here. We got some chats. We got D's Gaming and Toy Review in the chat. Shout out to you. Talking about hello. You dropped the W in the chat for us. Shout out to D's Gaming and Toy Review. We currently got about 13, 14 people watching across all platforms. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. And let's keep it going. Whoa. if you're watching the or listening to the audio version of the podcast here, the people in the video have the robot boot on their legs, and it's kind of looking like a shoe with a casting over it, and it's connected to his calf muscles. I mean, the people are able-bodied, but it seems to appear that it's assisting him with walking and movement. So that's good if we can get a whole body exoskeleton to do this for people with higher level disabilities as well. It can give you that would give someone with a higher disability full capability and motion and independence. So as he said, it learns as you walk, adjusting to your movement and the amount of force that you're applying to the ground. So that's awesome. That's interesting. Well, wow, absolutely amazing video right there. Giving a lot of people hope with disabilities, that they're trying and they're working on these different technologies to help benefit, not only people with disabilities, but people who struggle with walking in general, people with old age, and the type of technology that's coming out for us. So we got another video here by Stanford. Um, and I want to share this last video for the podcast here and just do a little recap afterwards. But talked about some interesting stuff, and I'm so excited about the future, this future of technology, future of health, future of wellness, and reading articles like this really motivate me and keep me focused on my recovery journey. So we got another article here, another video, I should say, by Stanford titled "Stanford Exoskeleton Walks Out into the Real World." Right into it. So this is pretty much the same looking exoskeleton boot that we watched in the previous video. So just another video talking about it maybe, and we'll see what this exoskeleton from Stanford has compared to the last video and the last boot that we saw. Wow. Okay. So pretty much talking about the same thing that we watched in the last video. So we're gonna go and go back to this stream here, guys. I appreciate everyone who's joined across all the platforms and listening in on this special episode of the StormCast. I want to continue, guys, just to bring you more and more content, more and more different content, more and more interesting, informational, and we'll mix it up. But so far, I like how we're doing it. I like learning. I like reading interesting topics and things that I find interesting. I like to read up on them, and things that anything revolved around neuroscience and health and recovery and regenerative medicine, and all of these things apply to me directly. And so I hope to bring them to you in a fun but informational way. So we talked about a lot of things on this episode. We talked about fasting. We talked about stem cells. We had an interview with Seth from Regenerative Medicine. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to everyone in the chat who's listened in on it. I want to say thank you so much for joining me and tuning in today. We got some more special episodes coming up here soon, more guests, and more interesting topics, and more just more and more better content, more and more. We're always upgrading, we're always getting better, and we're always improving. So if you're enjoying the podcast, I would ask and love if you could support the Patreon. Got the link in the bio. Only if you want, for a short amount of money, a little amount of money, I should say. It's $5 a month, and you can get behind the scenes content. You can talk to a group of people also related in the same type of content, and we have a community there. You can ask for one-on-one calls, merch, all special content, and behind the scenes content is going to be on there. If you want to continue to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Stormy and friends. And I just want to say thank you for the support on the podcast, and I encourage everyone to share this video and ask some comments down below and give me some feedback. I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, so it's been another episode of the podcast, guys. I love you guys so much, and I will see everyone in the next video. Y'all stay blessed.